Welcome, Algebra 1. We are focusing today on 2-7, which is solving proportions. So I am going to cut this out and put it into my next page of my spiral. So if you guys have a printer and you're printing these out and keeping track like that, I'm going to print that out and cut it out and then put it into my spiral. Okay, so what is a proportion? A proportion is an equation showing that two ratios are equal. And ratios are just fractions. So a proportion is basically saying that two fractions, like 2/3, is equal to 8/12, which that is. 8/12, if we simplified that, is simplified to 2/3. So a proportion is an equation showing that two ratios, two fractions, are equal to each other. In a proportion, if the ratios are equivalent, which equivalent is just saying equals, then the cross products are equal. So what are cross products? So let's write this ratio down again. So 2/3 equals 8/12. So if I have my cross product, if my cross product, it's multiplying the top with the bottom that's across from it. So the 2 and the 12 are cross products. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 times 12, and that should be equal to 8 times 3. So notice I went 2 to 12 and multiplied those, and I'm setting it equal to 8 times 3. Now let's see if those equal. 2 times 12 we know is 24, and 8 times 3 is 24. That works out. So this, like theory, not theory, but this statement helps us to solve proportions when there's a variable involved, just like there is in 1 through 6. So on number 1, we have 2/5 equals 16/x, and we're asking you to solve for x. So we use cross products to help us to solve. So we're going to set it up just like I did up here. I'm going to multiply 2 times x. And I'm going to set it equal to 16 times 5. So 2 times x is 2x. And then 16 times 5, just do that in your calculator, that gets you 80. So now we're at a simple one-step equation that we were in a few videos ago, right? That you know how to do. So how would I solve this problem? Well, take x by itself, I divide both sides by 2. 80 divided by 2 is 40. 2 divided by 2 is 1, which is x, which is what we want. X equals 40. I can always plug it in. I can make sure that when I reduce 16/40, it gets me 2/5. That's always a great way to check. Okay, let's move on to 2. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to pause me here, and I want you guys to try 2 on your own. So see how you guys can do. It's very similar to number 1. So try 2 on your own, and then come back and check your work. So your first step is just to cross multiply. We have two proportions. They're set equal to each other. So we do 5 times x is equal to 12 times 8. Okay, and then keep going if you were just stuck here, so keep trying. So after I just multiply 5 times x is just 5x, and then 12 times 8 is 96. Go one step further, solve for x. I'll give you a hint, write it as a decimal. So write your answer as a decimal here. So my last step is to divide both sides by 5. 96, 5 doesn't go evenly into 96. So when I do that, I would just plug that into my calculator. And I would do 96 divided by 5, which gets me 19.2. And that's my answer. If you left it as 96 over 5, that's fine too. Whatever you feel more comfortable with. If you like decimals better, great. If you like fractions better, that's fine too. Okay, let's look at 3. So 3, we have another proportion. We're going to, again, cross multiply. So x times 10 is going to be multiplied by 3. Now, I'm going to put the 3 first because it's shorter. Is equal to x times 8. So x times 8. So with this, it's like what we've been doing before. We have a 3 on the outside of parentheses, so we need to distribute 3 times x and 3 times 10. That gets me 3x plus 30. And then x times 8 is just 8x. So from there, I solve for x. So I want to move the x's to the same side of the equation. So I have a 3x here and an 8x here. I can either move the 8x over, but because there's no constants on this side, I'm going to actually move the 3x to this side. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. 3x minus 3x is 0. 30 comes down. 8x minus 3x is 5x. Last step, how do we get x all by itself? We divide both sides by 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 5 divided by 5 is 1x. And then, of course, we can write it as just x equals 6. 6 equals x equals 6, same thing, right? And that's it for 3. So what I want you guys to do on number 4, I just want you to start the first step on your own. So start the first step on your own, pause me here, and then come back to check your work. Okay, hopefully you're coming back just to check your work. You should have multiplied the 5 by the x minus 3. And then set it equal to x times 2. Whenever we have two fractions, cross multiplication is always in your mind. Okay, so if you want to pause me here and try the next step, pause me here to try the next step and then come back to check your work. So my next step would be to distribute 5 to x, 5 to 3. So that gets me 5x minus 15. X times 2 is 2x. Okay, now I'm just going to continue and solve for x. This one's kind of similar. There's not a constant on this side. There's only a variable. So I'm going to move my variables to the right side. So this is a positive 5x. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. 5x minus 5x cancels. Negative 15, 2x minus 5x is negative 3x. And then our last step to get x all by itself, we divide both sides by negative 3. Negative 15 divided by negative 3 is 5. And negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1x. And then if 5 equals x equals 5. A lot of similarities here with these types of problems, which is nice. They're pretty straightforward. If you guys do have any questions or any concerns throughout this whole thing, remember, please bring them to class so we can go over them. Okay, so number 5, proportion again. Lots, it's the same thing, cross multiplication. So I'm going to set it up the same. X plus 2 is going to cross multiply with 6. 6 times x plus 2. And then that's going to be equal to 3 times x plus 7. So the only thing that's different here is we're going to have to distribute twice. So we have to distribute on the left-hand side and distribute on the right-hand side. So 6 times x and 6 times 2, and then I'm going to distribute the 3 to the x and the 7. So 6 times x is just 6x, and 6 times 2 is 12, equals 3x plus 21. Okay, so now that we've distributed, we can now just start to solve for x. So we want to move the variables to one side of the equation. It doesn't matter. You can move the 6x over here. You can move the 3x over here. I usually like to see which one's smaller and move that one. So the 3x is smaller, so I'm going to move that one. So subtract 3x. 6x minus 3x is 3x. Bring down my 12 equals 3x minus 3x is 0. And bring down 21. Okay, so from there, I'm running out of room, but that's okay. I'll move over here. So I'm going to move my constants to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides of the equation. And so I'm left with 3x. The 3x comes down. 12 minus 12 is 0, equals 21 minus 12, which is 9. Last step, to get x by itself, I divide both sides by 3, and I get x is equal to 3. You can always check your work by plugging it back in. 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 plus 7 is 10. Is 5 over 10 simplify to be the same as 3 over 6? Yes, they both simplify to be 1/2. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to try 6 on your own. So try the whole thing, get x by itself, and then come back to check your work. So pause me here, come back, check your work. So first step is just to cross multiply. 7 times x minus 6 is equal to 3 times 2x minus 8. After that, we distribute. I distributed the 7 to the x minus 6 to get me 7x minus 42. And I distributed the 3 to the 2x minus 8 to get me 6x minus 24. I continue to solve by getting my x's on one side of the equation. 7x minus 6x is 1x. Bring down that minus 42. These cancel, which was my goal, and the negative 24. Last step, I move the constants to one side of the equation. So the x comes down, negative 42 plus 42 is 0, and negative 24 plus 42 is 18. And so I got x by itself. So my final answer, x equals 18. And that is it. Okay, so this is probably the most applicable type of math that you're going to see and think about in a lot of different real life situations. And so I gave you one example that's a word problem that we're going to go through. So SCHS Cheer can wash 8 cars in 60 minutes. How long will it take them to wash 5 cars? So we set up a ratio. So I looked to see first, what do we have in common? So we're talking about cars to minutes. So they can wash 8 cars in 60 minutes. And so now it's asking, how long will it take? So it's asking us for the minutes. How long will it take for them to wash 5 cars? So I'm going to set up a ratio, and you could do kind of the ratios in different ways, but I'm going to set up my ratios as cars to minutes. So cars being on top, minutes being on bottom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first use the ratio that I know. I know that they can wash 8 cars in 60 minutes. And so if they're working at the same consistent rate the whole time, what I now want to figure out is how long will it take them to wash 5 cars. So we know that there's the 5 cars on top. But what we don't know is how many minutes that will take. So we make that the variable. And now I have something set up just like I did on 1 and 2. I can cross multiply. So 8 times x is equal to, get another color here, 5 times 60. And multiply it together. So 8 times x is just 8x. 5 times 60 is 300. To get x all by itself, I need to divide both sides by 8. And when I do that, I get x equals 37.5. So that means when we have a word problem and it's asking us a question in words, we need to answer it in words. So how long will it take them to wash the 5 cars? It will take them 37.5 minutes. Now, like I was saying before, you can set this ratio up any way. You could have done cars to cars is equal to minutes. So you could have done 8 to 5 is equal to 60 to x, and you would have gotten the same thing. You just have to stay consistent. So I prefer to do it like this. Doesn't matter. You should still get to the same answer. And that is it for proportions today. Again, if you guys have any questions, make sure you're bringing them to class so we can go over them together. Have a great day, guys. Bye.